Now I want to talk about ZTA 2502, which the council passed this week. I want to echo the frustration and disappointment of many residents around the county. I appreciate the fact that 3 council members voted against the ZTA, and I agree with the assessment voiced by Councilmember Katz that this will not increase affordable housing. It was never intended to create an increase affordable housing. What this will do is impact communities and displace residents currently living in affordable houses if those residents are renters, which many of them are. They are also minorities, and if the property owners decide to rebuild their property to add additional units, they are likely to be the most impacted. It provides an incentive to redevelop naturally occurring affordable homes into more expensive homes. An earlier study done by none other than Park and Planning showed that replacing existing single-family homes in single-family neighborhoods result in housing that is actually more expensive than what it replaces. So the assertion that this is an affordable housing program requires a large stretch of the imagination, since the authors and the council majority know the same demographic data that I know. That means that they know full well that Black and brown families will be excluded from ownership, largely because their incomes are significantly lower than white and Asian counterparts. So much for racial equity. Final plans that do not reflect community input. Planning used to be a public process with citizen committees that included businesses, developers, residents, and staff. And staff from Park and Planning was there as support and not as dictators of policy. Then reports were voted on and moved forward. I know this because I served on the Sector Plan Committee for downtown Silver Spring. I want to read to you some of the content of the emails that have been sent to me and to council members. This is what they said. We are the backbone of Montgomery County, the workers, caretakers, and community builders who have made these neighborhoods our home. But ZTA 2502, Thrive 2050, and other fast-track policies threaten our families, our homes, and our future. Many of us are immigrants who fought hard to build a life here, often purchasing homes after years of saving and sacrifice. Now those very homes are being labeled teardowns or development opportunities. We're not invited into the planning process, yet the consequences fall hardest on us. These plans are moving forward without respecting the communities they would displace. That must stop. The majority of those who live along these corridors are immigrant, Hispanic, Latino, Black, and senior populations. Let us be clear, this is not housing justice. This is discrimination and gentrification backed by systemic erasure. These folks have 5 main points: protect tenants from displacement, protect homeowners and property rights, require true affordability, ensure language access and oversight, and respect the master plan process. These emails were not discussed and addressed point by point during the council. This CTA is a vote to continue the destruction of the planning process in Montgomery County. It has cut residents out of a meaningful role in the planning process, something that's been going on for a while. Residents will tell you that the reduction of planning input to a couple of presentations by planning staff of what they want to do to the community, not what the community residents think should be done. After that, there's a dutiful collection of Post-it notes where residents could make comments, followed by a vote by the members of the committee. That's how things used to be done. And the recommendations of the committee went forward to the planning board and to the council. There used to be a real role for residents who worked with developers and business people to have real conversations and make decisions about the future of their community, with Park and Planning serving as support staff. And this was all done via master plan process. There was no substantive conversation at the committee level or at the council levels about stormwater management and the lack of standards for impervious surface and tree coverage. I sent a 9-page memo to the council raising numerous issues. It was not discussed at the committee level or at the full council. Civic associations, including Montgomery County Civic Federation, sent letters and requests for information, and that was not discussed or addressed by the council. It was said that these issues have been discussed for years, and maybe they have, but they certainly haven't been discussed through any kind of public deliberative process. Just saying an occasional soundbite is not the same thing as a discussion. There was one public hearing in February, and that public hearing was for 5 different proposals. There were 2 committee work sessions, and there was 1 council session with virtually no questions. Residents did not get their questions answered. None of the issues we raised were addressed. None of the issues raised by other community members were addressed. It is profoundly disrespectful to residents of the county. There is no evidence that this ZTA will increase ownership options in this county for our missing middle firefighters, teachers, and police officers. The new, more expensive units that may come out of this may very well be rental units. The changes that will come because of this ZTA will not be evident all at once, and that's because it allows slowly chipping away at the communities all around the county. So much for a resident buying a home in a neighborhood because they like the neighborhood and they had assurances that the neighborhood can't be changed without citizen input. In this case, there is no citizen involvement. Neighbors will have to be ever vigilant. Is there a proposed development nearby? How many trees will come down? Will there be too many more cars that we're going to have a hard time parking on already overcrowded streets? Will window views now be of concrete next door? Residents who've lived here today have a right to have a real voice in the future of the county. They are not necessarily resistant to change, but they want to be heard and listened to. They're smart, and we would do well to work with them instead of this profound disrespect shown through this zoning change. I think the ZTA is one more example of the need for reform in Montgomery planning. I will not be county executive after next year, but I still believe that the planning board needs to be more accountable to the executive branch, where much of the work and implementation of land use happens. Right now, developers and planners are unaccountable to residents, and planners have unchecked control. With the passage of this ZTA, there is greater urgency to have a planning process that is more inclusive of the residents who live here now and who want and should be asked to help plan for the future. We're planning the future as if no one lives here now, and that current residents should have no role in planning for the future. We're planning for a future for people who aren't even here, trying to anticipate what they want and ignoring the people who already live here. There are over 1 million of us here in the county. And speaking of planning for the future, one of the worst aspects of this is the total disregard for the existing master plans and the continued assertion that we must do this to accommodate future growth. Nothing could be farther from the truth. It is a lie, in fact. In our current plans, we have set aside enough development for another 85,000 units. You heard me, 85,000 units. Plus, we have 34,000 unbuilt but approved units, meaning that all a developer has to do now is go ask for their building permit and they can start building. The Council of Governments wrote a letter to this council and other councils, which we've shared with the council in case they don't remember it, and that letter said that we have enough planned capacity in our existing master plans to accommodate even more growth than is projected by 2050. In essence, the council continues to resurrect the false notion that but for this craziness, we won't be able to support future growth. And that is patently false. And it is false by the facts that all of us have had in front of us, and some people are choosing to ignore.